Welcome to the Seller Roundtable e-commerce coaching and business strategies with Andy Arnott and Amy Wees.
Yeah, those are great tips. And Amy, I'll be interested to hear how it goes for you. I don't think I've actually spoken to anyone that's used that program. So I'll have to listen, for an update on a future episode with how that's working out for you. Because that seems like a great opportunity as long as, it works into your calculation,
Well,
in a
we looked
reasonable
at
way.
it, and it's not for all products, right?
Mhm.
It's definitely kind of a limited to certain products, but yeah, we're going to give it a shot for the products that are there. Just something I want to point out to all of you, on your Seller Central app on your phone, if you have the Seller app on your phone, if you click on, there's a new area called News on the homepage of the app. So as soon as you open the app, there's a new area called News. If you click News, you're going to get all of these new announcements. So today they made this announcement, selling in Canada and Mexico just got easier. And in all of those announcements, they include like links to the help pages and information on how to sign up. But yeah, we just noticed this news link on the Seller app, and it's super helpful on getting the latest and greatest information on how to do that. And supposedly this program has been around for a little while. A few people have used it. I remember seeing something about it a few months ago. It was kind of, on the down low, but I remember seeing something about it, and a few people have in the Facebook group, when I posted about it, a few people have already kind of started using it. So we'll see how it goes.
Awesome.
It's actually been out for quite a while. I've been using it for like a year and a half or 2 years. But yeah, like I said, it's pretty easy in terms of, super hands off. You just really need to watch that profit margin. Not only that, but like thinking in terms of pesos, right? Especially in Mexico, the numbers are so off there that you really have to kind of wrap your head around that and, use the Google, the Google Math Translate is what I call it, right? So you can type in, what's $50 in Mexican pesos, and it'll give you that quick number. So that's kind of another tip for you guys to use.
Awesome. All right. Well, then, so the next marketplace we're looking at, we're kind of going in chronological order here. So we're back to Europe, looking at Italy, founded in 2010. So certainly a little bit smaller. We're looking at about $17 billion in e-commerce revenue last year, and Amazon holds about a 14% market share. Kind of similar to France in that there is a lot of other competition, and they haven't really easily given way to Amazon. So we're really not seeing a whole lot of growth or opportunity in this market, but that's not to say that it's not there. I haven't spoken with a whole lot of sellers who've gotten into this market, especially from like the United States. But with that being said, if you do speak Italian, or if you do have some expertise or connections in this market, certainly a possibility. But my kind of personal view is that I don't necessarily see Italy or Spain, for that matter, which we're about to get into, being quite as good of an opportunity as certainly Germany right now, or even the UK, which has really kind of established itself. So getting into Spain, founded just after Italy, similar size to the Italian market as well, about $18 billion in revenue per year, and with a 15% market share for Amazon. That has actually kind of ticked up over the last couple of years. Now that the market's almost 10 years old, we are starting to see a little bit of growth in that case, but nothing super, nothing that stands out to me in a big way in either of these markets. I was doing some market research last week for these two markets, and I have seen that in Italy, office supplies seem to be a really hot product right now. I don't know if that's just because of kind of the work from home nature that we're kind of all going through right now. And then in Spain, conversely, I'm seeing cleaning supplies and like home products are selling really well right now. So interesting. I don't necessarily know the reasoning behind that, but yeah, really, I wouldn't personally recommend these two marketplaces unless there is really a specific reason that you would see going in and selling in Italy or Spain.
I think a lot of people tend to get started, like you mentioned, Rob, in one of the larger markets like Germany or the UK, because once you move your inventory to, across all of these marketplaces, you're also paying for the overhead in those marketplaces. So you're now doing PPC across all these marketplaces. And, it ends up, the ROI ends up just not being there, unless you're able to maybe like dominate office supplies in Italy, right? Or, dominate cleaning supplies in Spain. So I always tell people when they're considering a market, to do the research of what's selling there, like actually go and see how does the market look for your particular type of product. Don't just expand to expand, because remember, just like it costs you money to get set up selling on Amazon US or on Amazon Canada, whatever, it's going to cost you that money and time and resources and advertising dollars to be able to move your products into these others. So, it's like we're not necessarily profitable when we first put our products out there. And it's going to be the same way when you're getting into any of these markets, until you've sold through a few cycles of inventory and really kind of tweak that market and figured out your advertising and all of that, you might not be seeing a return. So definitely kind of focus on each area and where your products are going to fit best, and do one thing at a time, master one market at a time. What would you say about that, Rob?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Amy, especially kind of the idea of, you probably don't want to jump into 6 different markets at one time, right? It's probably smarter to take a bit more of a logical approach where you're going one by one and ensuring that you're able to be profitable with your products in each market. And, with places like Spain and Italy that aren't as established, it's more of a risk. There's certainly opportunity for the investment to pay off, but it is more of a risk. So I think what you said is spot on about maybe, if you're first looking to expand, maybe considering one of the larger markets like Germany or the UK, because, it's potentially going to be a bit easier for you, and you could potentially recoup that investment a bit faster, and make sure that you're actually able to succeed in a European market.
Yeah, just to follow up on that real quick. Yeah, like Amy was saying, systems in place, right? So if you're not able to keep up with your current Amazon business in terms of, like Amy was saying, you got PPC. And once you expand into these different marketplaces, now you have a whole nother PPC account to manage, right? So these are all, and a whole nother inventory kind of stack to manage. And then a whole nother, all these listings and hijackers and all the things that come with, all of these marketplaces. Not only that, but these marketplaces are different, right? There's features that are currently on Amazon US in terms of being a seller that aren't on, in Spain or Italy, or, like, for example, video ads probably aren't in a lot of these marketplaces yet, but you can use them in the US. So there's a lot of intricacies. So once again, bandwidth wise, unless you have your processes really dialed in, and those processes can be, implemented in these other marketplaces, it may or may not behoove you to go into those marketplaces after you kind of do that self-reflection.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great point, that there is a lot of nuance in these marketplaces. They're not all the same. It's not going to be the same experience for you across each of these marketplaces. So, really having your business in order in your primary market first, and then looking to expand possibly with some additional help or resources is I think, at least really the way to go. All right, so now let's get into Brazil. Brazil is a very interesting marketplace for Amazon over the past 8 years or so. Founded in 2012 with about $21 billion in e-commerce revenue. This has been one of Amazon's most difficult marketplaces to really gain a foothold in. Significant distribution issues in Brazil because of the size of the country, as well as the infrastructure is really sometimes lacking around the country, which can make shipping very difficult. They also have some of the highest taxes and duties on imports in the entire world. I was reading that it looks like around 33% of their GDP, or the amount of taxes that they collect is equivalent to about 33% of their GDP each year, which I think is like the second most in the entire world. So really difficult for people from outside the country to get in and still be profitable. Certainly, I think Brazil is up and coming in a lot of different industries, primarily technology and a little bit of manufacturing. So certainly possible you could find a local supplier that would make the process much easier. But at least so far over the past 8 years, it has been really very difficult for outsiders to break in. And again, kind of similar to some of these European markets like France that we looked at, but continuing to see competition. Amazon Brazil barely breaks the top 3 in terms of monthly visitors in search volume for all of these e-commerce sites within Brazil. So for whatever reason, Amazon just hasn't quite taken a foothold in the market like it has in other places. With that being said, your money can go a long way in the Brazilian market. So if you do see a good opportunity, you can get in with relatively little investment. But on the other hand, you're probably going to pay for some of that on the back end with the import taxes and duties and things like that. So really kind of a mixed bag, not something that I've considered touching at all. But this is kind of the most interesting market for me to watch as things go along, because it seems like there's always something happening or always some change that they're implementing to try to stir things up almost. All right. So let's move on to the next market, which is India, founded in 2013, about almost $100 billion in e-commerce revenue. It should well exceed $100 billion this year in 2020. And Amazon holds about 32% market share. This is a place where Amazon has seen significant competition from Walmart. They really tried to go head to head with Amazon by acquiring an e-commerce company called Flipkart. And so that's been kind of something interesting to watch over the past year or so. One concern I would have personally about investing in India, relatively low purchasing power for the people especially in some of the larger cities. Even you're not seeing people spending as much money on e-commerce purchases. Alternatively, the Indian rupee, it's certainly devalued right now. I want to say it's like, I looked earlier, it's like $73 or 73 Indian rupees to $1 US. So if you have a product where maybe you're looking to get into in the United States and maybe it takes a $10,000 investment, you might be able to get into a similar niche in India for maybe just a few $1,000s. So kind of definitely pros and cons to this market. And it is growing, but that kind of, I'd say, low spending power of the country as a whole is something that definitely concerns me.
Something interesting.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andy.
I was just going to say something really interesting with India. A couple of points there. I completely agree, Rob, but I also think that India, I think, is a huge opportunity because, number one, as we decouple more and more from China, India is going to be a major manufacturing hub. So once again, getting a foothold in India and learning how that works early on could really benefit you as you're moving forward and as India becomes more of a trading partner with us, which I think they will. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but I think that, Flipkart and Walmart, are their biggest competitors, but I still think that they are behind. They have the advantage in terms of having starting as a native company. But Amazon has the kind of experience and the years of doing e-commerce to really kind of know the pain points of all these distribution and customer service and all of those kinds of things. So I really think that India could turn out to be a really interesting marketplace, especially if you got in there early and really figured out how to sell there early on by sourcing locally. I think there's a huge opportunity there.
Well, and Flipkart has actually been in India for, years, a long time. It was just that Walmart, acquired it. And what's interesting about some of these countries like Brazil and India, where they have a lot of kind of, I don't know what to call them, like roadside stands. Like people are used to buying kind of off the street, in the street markets. So commodity type products are bought more often kind of in the street markets. But they're just like, I studied India during my MBA program and for international expansion project. And what's really interesting about countries like India is even though there is a large poor population, there's also a middle class that spends a lot of money on things like Apple computers. There is a higher class, right? So you can definitely still target those people with money to spend in India that are after those higher quality branded products. And you can, there's money to be made. And there's a reason that Apple Computers does so well in markets like India, because there are people with money to spend. So definitely, you know, kind of like you study the market in any other country, there are people with money to spend, and there's money to be made in these markets, both on Flipkart as well as on Amazon.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah. And Andy, I think what you said there was key actually as well, in that, you know, combining the fact that, you know, there's a great exchange rate between the US and India and Europe and India, as well as, you know, maybe the idea that we're going to be decoupling from China a little bit with manufacturing moving forward, that, you know, if you can get into that marketplace soon and really find a good local manufacturer, you could really be set up for success. So yeah, India it has the potential, I think, to be one of the fastest growing marketplaces for Amazon over the next several years.
Yeah. One other point I forgot to make, which I had it and then I lost it because I'm over 40 and have 3 small children, is is the other huge benefit is that the Indian government is actually very pro third-party seller, right? So from what I understand, Amazon cannot sell their own products, and same thing with I think Flipkart and Walmart the same way. I think they passed this last year, right? Where you can't sell, they can't sell their own products on the marketplace. So in terms of, you know, in the US right now, Amazon is a huge kind of deterrent for people wanting to sell on Amazon. There's a lot of brands now that are decoupling from Amazon. I love that word, because they're afraid of Amazon going, oh, wow, Nike, you've got these, you know, this new hoodie with this new kind of material. Oh, guess what? We can go source that from China. We can have the Amazon, you know, Flash brand of sportswear, and we can start selling that, and we can feature that on the front page, and we can start taking market share away from you using the data that you had. You know, they finally admitted that they are actually looking at this data from other sellers and capitalizing on that. So, you know, in India, they definitely seem to have better protection set up for the third-party seller. So something else to really think about.
Definitely. Yeah. And before we kind of continue into the Middle East, talking about the UAE and Saudi Arabia, just wanted to briefly touch on Australia. It was kind of the next marketplace founded. It's just a few years old, founded in 2017 with about $22 billion in revenue. Amazon is a very small player, at least at this point. A lot of small sellers in the Australian market with about 3% market share. eBay is far and away their biggest competitor in Australia. eBay really took hold, you know, several years ago and has not relented almost at all over the past few years. And so, you know, I think the fact that, you know, buyers have just kind of this trust factor with eBay that maybe hasn't been established in Australia, partly because it's such a new market, as well as the idea that sellers really haven't invested in this market yet, because they've been looking towards more of the established marketplaces. It just really hasn't quite clicked for Amazon Australia yet. But it is a very easy market to get into, with low investment and a lot of niches with low competition, very small sellers leading some of the categories. You know, I don't have a strong feeling for the pace that this market's going to grow at, but I do think there's the potential for it to grow. Maybe not quite like India or some of the other marketplaces that we discussed, but you know, I don't necessarily have anything bad to say about the Australian market at this point. So you know, certainly an opportunity.
Yeah, and some positives on Australia, right, is English speaking, so that's pretty easy. Strong consumer spend there, and then, you know, pretty easy to get onto the marketplace there. The other cool thing is, I believe it's Australia and Japan have this. I can't remember the numbers. I think Australia is 75,000. I think Japan was 100,000. Whereas if you can sell, it's a certain amount of years. I think in Australia, like 2 years or $75,000 where you're like not required to pay taxes. Don't quote me on this. Look this up, folks, but it's something like that. And then Japan is the same way, where you get kind of this like tax break in the beginning to actually launch your business there and get moving there. So that's kind of intriguing and definitely a bonus.
The other thing about Australia is certain products are doing really, really well. So there's a lot of Australian sellers who are selling in the US market, and it's very easy for them to enter the Australian market. The thing about the market in Australia is it's saturated with merchant fulfillment from overseas channels. So if you search on Amazon Australia, you're going to find a ton of Chinese sellers merchant fulfilling their products, and it kind of saturates the pages. But as more and more Australians have started selling on Amazon Australia, you're starting to see a lot more Prime fulfillment. You're starting to see a lot more kind of professional, nice looking listings. The Australians are great with branding. They're great with setting up great products. So that market is definitely doing a lot better. It's being cleaned up. It's looking a lot nicer. There's more Australians shopping on it now. And there's a lot more opportunity kind of growing on Amazon Australia. So I have a couple of clients that are doing quite well there, and others that are just kind of getting started there, or had tried it before and it wasn't as good, and now they're kind of re-attacking that market. So
Amy, I think you meant legend, right? Not great. They're doing they're legend at marketing, right?
Potentially, yeah. Let me check my Straya dictionary.
All right. Nice.
And then just before we get into UAE, I totally forgot about, we have to touch on Turkey as well. Turkey is a unique one in the sense that founded, about the same time as Amazon Australia, just a little bit after that. And I think there is a significant opportunity for growth in the e-commerce market in Turkey as a whole. Amazon is obviously still very new to the market, so it's not totally clear how Amazon fits into the marketplace as a whole. But in general, just as a country, Turkey's certainly accepting more international trade these days. They're making it easier for people to get products in from international locations. And so I think, certainly, again, some opportunity here, but I'd say it's too early to really lean one way or another on, how quickly this market's going to take off. But I do like what I'm seeing from Turkey in terms of kind of how they're working with Amazon to make it easier for sellers. In the United Arab Emirates, this has been arguably the hottest market for Amazon in the past year. Founded in just last year in 2019, already an $18.5 billion e-commerce market, and Amazon has captured about 15% of that market share in less than 1 year. So Amazon kind of jumped into the market and really took hold. In speaking to a lot of the UAE sellers that I work with, there still are very few large sellers in the marketplace. Some of these larger companies based out of the UAE, for whatever reason, haven't decided to jump in. And so it's been a great opportunity for these smaller sellers to really get a foothold before these larger companies get in. Another pro to the United Arab Emirates is there's not much of a language barrier compared to some of the other Middle Eastern countries. You're going to see a lot of English speakers. And in fact, I believe Seller Central even, you can make it default to English, which is not the case we're about to see in Saudi Arabia. So really a great option for international sellers and international investors who don't live in the area, but may want to get into the market. And if things kind of continue to trend as they are, Amazon's quickly going to become the #1 e-commerce company in the UAE. And at this point in time, I can't say that this is going to last, but at least at this point in time, it does require very little investment to at least get started. So this is certainly one of the international markets that I'm most excited about for Amazon.
And yeah, there's definitely money in the UAE as well. Like yes. A lot of people with money to spend, and very premium market there. So yeah, it's kind of exciting to think about that.
Yeah, and particularly like on luxury goods as well. They definitely, I think, in that society, value spending sometimes a lot of money on luxury goods. So if you do have a high quality product that might be a little bit more expensive to manufacture or source, I think there still could be opportunity in the UAE because they certainly value that more than other markets might.
Yeah.
The Amazon team expansion team is international expansion team is definitely the most aggressive from the UAE. I actually just got an email from them, which
Yeah.
they've been like spamming me every day.
Yeah, they're really, I think, really pushing that market, and it's
They
doing so
are,
well
yeah.
that
Yep.
yeah, it seems great all the way around. And then finally, the most recent marketplace, Saudi Arabia, that was just launched earlier this year in June 2020. So I think it's just over 3 months old now. We don't have a lot of information about this marketplace, but if we look at how the UAE has performed just in the last year, I think we can kind of extrapolate some of that information to what we might expect from the Saudi Arabia market. Very similar, if not even more so, the fact that consumers in Saudi Arabia have high spending power and they like to spend money on potentially expensive products. You can get into this market with somewhat little investment. I'd say slightly more than the UAE at this point, but certainly not as saturated at this point as many of the other marketplaces. And just overall, I think something to keep an eye on. I can't comment too much on how it's been performing. There's not a lot of data out yet, but I expect it to certainly at least try to keep pace with the UAE.
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do something with the UAE, with Saudi Arabia and some of the other Middle Eastern countries in terms of like the pan-EU stuff, where you send all your stuff to the UAE and then from there it goes to all these other countries. It would make sense for something like that. So it'll be interesting to see if that's kind of the system they come up with, or if you have to send your products to each one of these countries or just merchant fulfill.
Acquired Souk based out of the UAE, and I know they also have distribution options and selling options through Saudi Arabia. So yeah, there could be some opportunity for a synergy there. It's probably a little bit too soon to figure out what their plans might be, but I would think that would be a great opportunity for sellers.
Cool.
Yeah, so those are kind of the main marketplaces I wanted to touch on today. We can, if anyone wrote in any questions, or if you guys want to chat about anything more in detail, I'd be happy to get into it.
Yeah, no, I think you got it all covered, and as usual, we're almost perfected the 1 hour time frame, right? Somehow it seems to always work out that way. I don't think I had any questions. We peppered you as we went there. I think in kind of wrapping this all up in terms of marketplaces, the things to kind of recap on, guys, is if you feel like you have your current marketplace dialed in, which with Amazon that's hard to ever say because they're changing stuff so frequently. But if you have teams in place, systems in place, then really take a look at some of these other marketplaces and decide where where you want to spend your time. There's pluses and minuses to all a lot of them, like Australia, easy to get in there, language barriers pretty easy, but the market isn't as large, so the expansion might not be as good. But if you're in there early, then you might get a nice foothold. Just for example, same thing with United Arab Emirates. Some of these marketplaces could really be a big opportunity. I a lot of times wish that instead of 800 SKUs, I was like Amy and had like 10, because getting spooled up in these marketplaces with a couple of SKUs would be so much easier for me. It's whenever
12 with 4 on the way.
Oh, sorry, Amy. Sorry. I didn't want to lessen.
But yeah, it's a lot easier to manage. When Andy said the other day, he was like, yeah, I think I only had like 136 suppressed listings when I fixed my listings. And I was like, wait, 136 suppressed listings?
Hey,
oh my gosh, I cannot imagine dealing with that. Like, you're amazing.
We're paring those down by the day. We're losing SKUs like crazy right now. We're definitely downsizing and really focusing doing the 80-20 thing. We've been doing it for so long. Those are just all mostly long tail products, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we've been adding products since 2011, so it's a lot of long tail there, which is nice. But yeah, no, we're definitely paring that down, really 80-20 going. My goal is to probably be in the 20 to 50 SKU range by the time we're done getting rid of a lot of these old products, and really concentrating on some of the niches that, we're passionate about and know that there's opportunity in. So, yeah, folks, if you have not joined us live before, we would love to have you live. We do a Zoom meeting. You guys can jump in, ask questions to Amy or I, or our guests like Rob, who's got a lot of knowledge on a lot of these things. So we love to have you guys live. sellerroundtable.com/live. We do it 1 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday, almost every Tuesday, unless one of us is playing hooky or sick, or, has a 2-year-old running through the room, like on that CNN clip. But generally we're here doing that. We love to have you guys live. If you have not yet done it, rate, review, subscribe. We really, really appreciate that. And, I don't want to brag, Amy, or anything, but as of right now, I think we're still like in the number 2 range on the Amazon Seller Podcast poll. So that's pretty awesome.
Yep. We got ranked number 2. So in the latest ratings. So I'm pretty proud of us.
Yeah.
Last year we were ranked like 8th and 11th. So if they had combined those votes, we might have been number 3.
Right. Yeah. I know. I had to email or message Danny this year and be like, hey, dude, these are the same podcasts. Like, combine those votes. They're both ours. So, yeah, it looks like you did it. So that's good. Yeah. So that's we really appreciate that, guys. All of you guys who went out and voted for us. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. And yeah, we love it. That gives us energy, right? It definitely pushes us forward when we know that we're making a difference for you guys in your day-to-day lives. I know that Amy and I both really love to make a difference with you guys. So thank you guys for doing that. And yeah, we hope to keep doing this. Keep on trucking. Let us know if you have any ideas. Reach out to us.
And thank you, Rob, for being on today and sharing your knowledge of all the marketplaces with us. And, I think it's really cool, and people will definitely be maybe checking out eGrow to do some product research in those various markets to see if their products fit in. And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Oh, last but not least, I forgot to ask this, and I don't know how I did this, but Rob, how can people get a hold of you?
Sure. Yeah. So people can get a hold of me by just sending me an email at my email is rob@egrow.io. Maybe drop that in the show notes or something like that. But
perfect.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat in detail about some of these marketplaces and get to know some of your audience. So yeah, thanks so much for having me today.
Awesome. Thanks again, Rob. And thank you guys so much for listening to the Seller Roundtable. We will see you guys next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for live Q&A and bonus content after the recording at sellerroundtable.com. Sponsored by the ultimate software tool for Amazon sales and growth, sellerseo.com and amazingathome.com.